Hello and welcome to the Prado Museum. We're here a couple minutes before opening to the public for our weekly sessions in English. Thanks so much to our donors for making sessions like this possible, to the American Friends of the Prado Museum. Take some time to check us out, learn more about what we do, as well as our sister organization here in Spain, Fundación Amigos del Museo del Prado. I'm really excited to show you this work of art here today in room 51C in the Prado Museum. We're here in this immersive space to check out the Romanesque frescoes from the Hermitage of Vera Cruz from the town of Maderuelo. We're so lucky to have this immersive space recreated here in the Prado Museum. These are the original murals from the Hermitage, which have been removed and brought here in an effort of preservation. So Maderuelo is a small town in the Segovia region, just north of Madrid. That town now has about 100 inhabitants total, but between the 10th and 13th century, it was an important center of the region. During that time, there was a lot of construction of different hermitages as well as other buildings, and this one was included. So in the 12th century, this hermitage, which was essentially a church intended to be a space where monks could retreat from society to live a sort of contemplative and tranquil life. This space was constructed and these murals were created inside. We don't know the name of the artist who created this work, but the paintings themselves show us some great example of the Romanesque fresco style. You'll notice that the images we see here are very flat, without volume. The figures are depicted with a strong line work. And also the color palette we see is a strong primary color palette. And so these works of arts are sort of a treasure and able to sort of take us back in time to that 12th century moment and have been reconstructed here in this space so we can imagine what it would be like in that space. So taking a look at the murals themselves, we see two paradises depicted here. Up above us, we have a sort of celestial paradise. In the center, we have our Pantocrator. This is the all-powerful God depicted above us and sort of held together by four different angels holding the space. Looking a little bit further down on the vaults, we also have depictions of angels, which are really interesting to take a look at and some of my favorite parts. So the artist has shown us two different types of angels. We have cherubim and seraphim, which are different kind of classes of angels that fall in the hierarchy. And some of the details which are interesting to take a look at. We've got some eyes on this angel in the center, eyes all over the body, which it was a trend in thinking about angels of the time. The seraphim and cherubim would also have 4 or 6 wings and sometimes multiple heads in both human and animal forms. We have over here on this side of the wall one of the angels depicted with a lion's head. So that's a really interesting example there. Kind of moving over to the earthly realm, the earthly paradise, above the door here we have a depiction of God's creation of Adam and then Adam and Eve in Eden. So the artist has kind of created a sort of a comic book effect for us here, showing us a sort of before and after the fall of man. It's broken up right in the middle by this date tree, which sort of breaks up the composition. So on the left, we see Adam depicted nude. His form is created by this strong line work, as we mentioned. And we have this tree over to the left, which is letting us know where we are. We're here in Eden, and this is the moment when God is creating Adam. I also want to point out that we have some text there. We see the letters ATM. There's different theories about what this means in the exact translation, but one that I thought was interesting and saw a lot was Adam traxit morte, which means Adam dragged death, or Adam drew death. Then in the second part of the composition over here, we see the sort of after story in Eden. So we have Adam and Eve. They are depicted nude, but after they've eaten the forbidden fruit, they're embarrassed. They have embarrassment of their naked forms, and so they're covering themselves with fig leaves. In the center, we have the tree of knowledge. We have Satan in his serpentine form moving up the tree. And we see Eve grabbing that fruit directly from the snake, about to eat it. We also see Adam holding his throat, sort of choking down that evil bite that he has just consumed. We have some more text. We see another ATM next to Adam. But then again, under Eve's leg, there's some more text, ATEV. The suggested translation is Adam traditit Evae vitam. So Adam gave life to Eve, a sort of reminder that Eve comes from Adam's body. On the back of the space, we see another Old Testament story depicted of the sort of after Eden. So we see the story of Cain and Abel, Adam and Eve's sons. So Cain is the eldest son of Adam and Eve. He is the farmer. And then the younger son, Abel, is the shepherd, who's depicted over here on the left side. So in the story, they both make an offering to God, and God takes note or gives regard to Abel's gift of the sacrificial lamb, which we see here in the center. Cain becomes jealous, and he ends up killing his brother, and is punished by God by being cast away and living a life of transience. And then here on the lower side, where we stand and sort of right next to us, we see depictions of more of the earthly realm. So we have our 12 apostles flanking both sides of the space, 6 on each side. And then in the back of the space, we see 2 more New Testament stories. So the first we have over here on the right, we see the adoration of the kings. So even though we're sort of missing baby Jesus in this depiction, this would be, we see his little feet there sitting on Mary's lap, and we see one of the kings offering a gift after his birth. Over here on the left side, we have an image later in Jesus's life of Mary Magdalene washing his feet, drying his feet after washing with her own hair, and an angel sort of presiding over the scene. Now, interesting to think about is how these paintings made their way to the Prado Museum. In 1924, they were declared an official artistic historic monument. And then in 1947, they were removed from the Hermitage in an effort to keep them safe. So here we have an image that I'll show you of the Hermitage itself in the town of Maderuelo. As I mentioned, it's right on the Riata River. And so in 1947, there was lots of construction of reservoirs happening, including the Linares Reservoir. And so it's presumed that these murals were removed from the inside of the Hermitage in an effort to keep them safe, being concerned that there would be flooding happening around the Hermitage. As you see, it's right next to the river. When the reservoir was created, this medieval bridge was actually covered with water. And the swelling of the Riata River actually did cause the flooding of nearly 500 small towns that were located on the banks of that river. The people who lived there were relocated to other places because those towns were lost. And it's said that in times of drought, actually the steeples of some of those churches of those lost towns can be seen. We feel really lucky to have access to these paintings, which remain safe here in the Prado Museum, so that we can imagine this contemplative and tranquil space as it was designed to be. Thank you so much for joining me today for our weekly session in English. We look forward to seeing you next week.